Good morning and welcome.
Hello.
We're here for Let's Talk Movies with Moira and Shannon. I'm Shannon.
And I'm Moira.
How about that? And I think this is the show I've been waiting for, right?
Yes.
So many things to talk about during the show. We have a lot of different things that we're going to review. We're going to review Barbie, of course, and Oppenheimer and Mission Possible and many more films. I do want to say that in some of the promotion that we put out for this, I said, you know, it's finally the Barbenheimer review, and somebody wrote to me this morning and said, you know what?
Maybe
not.
Yeah.
That as an Asian American, this is really offensive to me and I would prefer, so I deeply apologize for what's already been put out and I'm gonna pull back on that. Hadn't thought of it that way.
Me neither, but it was
glad to be enlightened.
Take the note.
Yeah,
right?
take the note. Because I don't think any of us is here going, "Ooh, I'd like to offend someone today." I don't want to.
Not today.
But some days you know, like that is honestly something I had not considered. Got it now, and apologize for that. So we're moving on.
Oh yeah.
But before we get into the reviews, you know, we love you so much, and you've been so instrumental to me along the way. You hold a very dear position and have held several positions at 𝗃𝗏, the Autism Community in Action, over the years, and you were very helpful to me on my journey. I'm forever, ever grateful. And you're just such a reasonable, lovely, warm person. I don't know anybody who doesn't love you. But we ask you, when you come in to do this, if there's any update from 𝗃𝗏, I'm sure that there's some because you're getting ready for a conference.
We are. The conference is coming, and this show is going to air on the day that the ticket price will go up, at midnight. So right now, if you're watching this, it's $125 for the 3-day in-person conference. We also have recorded access available. That's $75. That will not increase. And you will have access to those recordings until, I think, the 31st. I can't remember exactly the timing. It's on the website. But tomorrow at midnight, I should say the 17th, August 17th at midnight, the price goes up to $175. So if you're on the fence, now's the time to do it.
But to be clear, you can buy just the $75 and just watch it from home and have it, or you know, in the privacy of your home at your own time.
Yes.
Not live.
Not live, but yes, you will have that. And if you register for the in-person conference, you will also have that.
That's the part I wanted to get to.
Yes, both tickets include the recorded access. It's just that the recorded one is just the recordings. And then we are also working on some really exciting things. We're trying to redo and actually create from scratch a beautiful workbook that we want to have available. And 2024 is looking like when it's going to roll out. I've seen bits and pieces of it, and wow, is it great. So
sure.
You know,
you guys are brilliant with that. If you guys don't have a 𝗃𝗏 guide, the journey guides, oh my goodness, those are such
They are, and this
wonderful.
will be kind of the 2.0 of that. And
I love that.
Yeah, and there are journey guides available that you just have to pay for shipping. If you go to our shop 𝗃𝗏, there are some that are still available there. And then our hope is to you know, transition to this fantastic workbook.
I can't wait.
I know.
That's so exciting.
It is.
Wonderful. And I know that in the past you guys have said that if, you know, first of all, if you live in the state of California, you can, if you want to go to the conference, you can go to your regional center provider and ask for them to cover the cost for you.
Yes.
And that they do. You're vendored, and so that they do. But that if you are someone who's like, okay, but I can't even afford the $125, do not say, okay, well then I guess I can't go.
Right.
You can apply for a scholarship.
There
correct?
are scholarships available, and available for the ticket for the in-person, and available for the recorded access if that is also something that you are struggling with. So we don't want anybody to not have the information. And you know, we have a certain amount of funding set aside, so don't hesitate to ask, because you know, when that's gone, it's gone. But you know, our hope is that we'll be able to help anybody who needs the help.
And I don't know a single person who's ever gone to a 𝗃𝗏 conference virtually or in person who hasn't said that it was life-changing. So there you go. I mean, I can't give it a better endorsement than that. I can also tell you that if you're feeling squeamy about the scholarship thing, I am a recipient of a scholarship in years when I did not have the money to go. And I'm very proud of the fact that in years when I did have the money to go, I often paid for other people to go. And that's something that if you have the money, when you have the money, if you can afford to say, I'd like to pay for someone else to go, I found that very satisfying to go from being the person who got the scholarship to being able to say, give one to somebody. I want to make sure that I paid for somebody else to go.
Absolutely, and that just feels so good because you know the folks that you're helping are really in need of this information. So yeah, it's great.
It's an important thing. So do that. Go to 𝗃𝗂𝗎𝗂.org. You can find out all the information about everything that you guys do there.
Yeah, there's a ton.
It's the best website. I mean, I just don't even make any bones about it. And I know when we came into the space, and we have a website, and we have a couple of websites now. I don't even try to make it as good as yours because, I'm not, why would I compete with somebody who's already got it right? We have different stuff, right? But you could spend 3 days and not read to the end of the 𝗃𝗂𝗧 website, and your mind would be blown. Wig blown,
absolutely,
right? Isn't that
absolutely.
The phrase? So go there, 𝗃𝗂𝗎𝗂.org.
That's us.
I want to say a little thing here that we are pre-recording this show because as you guys are watching this, I'm trying to think where I am. I'm in Las Vegas as this airs. And I'm very happy to be in Las Vegas. We actually are going to film at a little, I believe, at the Omega Mart where they have the, what is it called? I'm not going to remember the name of it. Is it Kitten Wolf? I think it's something like that.
I don't know.
Kitty Wolf or something like that. There are these artist museum experiences.
Oh.
And this one is the Omega Mart where you go in and it looks like a grocery store, but it's a little bit odd grocery store.
Fun.
And you open up the cooler for the milk and you step into the world behind the grocery store, kind of like the Upside Down. And so, but here's the fun part is that they are the first entertainment company to get their entire staff autism certified.
Oh, nice. So you can go there and not worry. Bring your kid. They're going to know it's, because that's the big deal. It's sometimes our kids struggle with public situations. They want to be there, but maybe they don't always,
They have staff that are there to support. They have sensory bags that have Meow Wolf. Thank you so much. I knew it was like kitty something. Meow Wolf. And it's called Omega Mart in Las Vegas, but they have it in other cities too. They don't have it in Los Angeles yet, but they have one opening in Dallas, and the original one was in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Wow, that sounds fabulous.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's a good time. And can I tell you, my son was the one who he's been saying for months, can we go to Vegas? I want to go see this thing. And so when I said we're going to Vegas, he was like, can we go to this thing? And I said, yes. And then I looked at the website, and my first thought when I looked at the website, I was like, oh, am I going to be okay? Because I'm somebody who has sensory issues. I'm the person who was in the fetal position when we went to the Van Gogh exhibit.
Oh, you didn't care for that. Okay.
I couldn't handle it. I was dizzy. I was car sick, because the paintings move and the floor moved, and music was playing, and it was too loud for me.
Too much for you.
And I had brought sunglasses and a hoodie because somebody had warned me, and I took my son's earphones. I still had to be taken upstairs. I was in the fetal position.
Wow.
And I could have done with a sensor. So I looked at the first, and I thought, oh, Jem, is it going to be like the Van Gogh thing? Am I going to be able to handle it? He said, let me check. And he came back and he's like, Mom, they are autism certified, and we just have to tell them that you have sensory issues, and they have a whole baggie for you to help you be able to mitigate whatever you need. And then we got all excited about it.
Oh, and now I love them.
I know, I do too. So that's where I will be a week from now. But you guys can still be writing in. We love to hear your comments. We love to hear from you what's happening. You're watching it right now premiere for the first time on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. So please feel free to write in, ask questions. I will look at the questions later on to see what you guys wrote put in and what you thought, what you agreed with us, what you didn't, because I think some fur's going to fly here in a minute. I'm thinking that's what's going to happen. We'll see. Sometimes I go, oh, Moira and I are not going to agree on this, and then we do.
And then we do, and sometimes we're surprised.
Sometimes I'm like, no, I thought for sure you would love this. And we all know that when I don't like something, I tend to really not like it. Okay. Having said that, it's time to talk about what are you watching? So there it is. There it is. What are you watching? Okay. So I think I pushed the button, 𝗓𝗏. There we are. Up first, much awaited Barbie.
Oh, the Barbie movie.
The Barbie movie.
Yes. Okay. I'm a little out of order, but here we are. Barbie. Okay, and directed by Greta Gerwig, and of course having all this amazing cast in the film.
Yep, for those of you listening in podcast, the list is so long, it takes 2 columns. Obviously, everybody knows it's Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. I had no idea how many people were going to be guest appearing in this, and I didn't realize until I looked at that it was Emerald Fennell who played
Emerald Fennell
Midge.
was Midge.
I didn't realize that was her because she was so. But
love Emerald
amazing the number of celebrities that did cameos.
It was delightful, and I was really looking forward to this because I'm a huge Greta Gerwig fan, and of course I'm wearing my Barbie pink today, and this did not disappoint for me. I'm pleased at the success of this film for her. And the premise of this, if you don't know, is that Barbie lives in Barbie land and has a wonderful existence where Barbies can be whatever they want and Ken is just an accessory. It's the patriarchy, but in reverse, the matriarchy. But then Barbie starts experiencing thoughts of death and cellulite and has an existential crisis. So she and Ken end up heading into the real world to find out what's going on with the girl who is connected to or playing with Barbie. So in the real world, Barbie encounters the reality of the patriarchy and has to reevaluate her identity and place in the world. I enjoyed this. I actually went to the movie theater twice to see this. The second time, my daughter really wanted to take my mother-in-law, Maria, and Maria cheered during America for a speech. I mean, and there is a showstopper of a speech that the first time I watched it, I sobbed. And I love, this movie is, like it or not, this movie is a cultural phenomenon. And women of all ages are going to the theater dressed in pink. There's stories of ladies greeting each other with, "Hi, Barbie," in the movie theater. And I had a really fabulous moment. We were actually at the theater for a different film, and I was in the bathroom waiting in line, and there were these 2 teenage girls in front of me who were chatting, and they were both wearing pink. So I was like, oh, okay. And the one says to the other, I'm going to go home and tell my mom I love her. And I was like, oh, and I had to butt in. And so I said, did you just see Barbie? And they were like, yes, oh my God. And the one gal was like, this is such a great movie, everyone should see it. He goes, it's not just for girls, everyone should see it, this teenager says. And then I shared with them that America Fiera's speech made me cry. And I said, yes, do go home, tell your mom you love her, and give her a hug, And so I just love, I'm hearing all these stories, and it's inspiring this kind of sisterhood that I've always wanted for women to have, and I'm thrilled at that. And I've heard, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard reports of some women getting out of unhealthy and toxic relationships because of this movie. And one of the criticisms I've heard is it's a little too simplistic, but I kind of feel like that's perfect, that it kind of has to be. And I loved the thing that hit me hard was when Ken says to the one man in the real world, I don't think you're doing patriarchy right. And he says, yes, we are. We're just hiding it better. And I went, so I loved it. And I'm actually sad that it's kind of been connected with Oppenheimer because I don't think that's fair to either movie. And then, of course, the issue that your Asian American friend brought up, like, but I'm all in on Barbie, and I have a feeling you're not.
Well, I want to say this. I didn't hate it.
Okay.
I didn't hate it at all. In fact, the first solid hour I loved. Oh, I just loved it. I thought it was clever. I thought it was witty. There was just so many that we were laughing at, you know, really loudly. At all the little things about Barbie's reality. And I loved the diversity that Barbie was every shape and size and color and ethnicity and ability. I just loved that. I loved the whole weird Barbie thing. You know, as somebody who played with Barbies, I so appreciate, there were things that I had forgotten that were just hilarious and I really enjoyed, and I think Ryan Gosling is wonderful in the movie. And I loved when they went into the real world and their reactions, because I just think that kind of juxtaposition, when you take somebody who isn't from here, like somebody who's alien to our toxic environment and see their reactions, I think that's a wonderful, wonderful teaching tool. I super loved all of that. Then it started to go off the rails for me.
Okay.
About the time that, I don't want to spoiler alert for anybody, but there's a period of time when Ken and Barbie split up. Not, you know, physically, they're distanced
They're in
from each
different
other.
parts, yeah.
And about there, it started to like kind of like, I was like, okay, I feel like we kind of have lost the thread here. And then, of course, with America's speech, I thought, okay, okay, we're back on track now. And then it was like the whole movie decided to be RRR, but not, I don't know. It went off the rails for me in a way that, and then I really didn't like the ending. I really objected to the ending. So the whole, it lost its all, I said it was like the plot folded in on itself and it became a black hole, is how I described it. So loved the first half, really super didn't like the ending, and thought that the script fell apart. Now, you know, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and Greta Gerwig have a really storied career together and do a lot of things together. And it's funny because afterwards when I said, gosh, I've never seen a movie like be so right in the first hour and then kind of go, and then fall apart like that ever before. And then I went, oh yeah, no, I did. White Noise, which was 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 too.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, is that a thing with him that he just does not know how to land his plane? And I was like, well, was it Mattel said, no, you can't end it that way? Like, it felt like a bunch of people came in and kind of monkeyed with it and that it didn't really know what it wanted to be. And here's what I'd like to say. What I would have really liked to have seen was Greta Gerwig's ending.
And I got to tell you, I took a peek at your review and I read that earlier, and Greta Gerwig wrote Lady Bird.
Yes,
Lady Bird is fantastic.
Yes.
And Greta Gerwig adapted Little Women, which I think is the best adaptation of Little Women I've ever seen. You know,
yeah, I'm not there on that.
You're not there.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, and I love the ending on that one. I know she can land the plane.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's interesting because you mentioned that, and I was like, huh, I wonder, because I am not a 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, however you say his name.
I don't know.
I hated White Noise, so I'm kind of like,
But I loved the first hour of it.
See, yeah.
I thought it was clever. I thought it was witty. I thought it was, I mean, it was weird.
Right.
It was definitely weird. He likes weird. I can do weird. I did the Wes Craven. I like, weird is okay.
Yeah.
But, you know, then when you lose track of what it is you're trying to say and you're hemming and hawing in your own script, I don't know. But I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to. I want to see a director's cut of this.
Oh, yes.
5-10 years down the road, I'd love to hear what Greta Gerwig says about who got in and monkeyed with that last hour, and I want to see her cut. I'll bet it's fabulous.
Well, all the coverage I've seen of this film, Margot Robbie and Greta Gerwig were meeting constantly with Mattel to make sure they were okay with certain things. And everybody's like, you're never going to be able to do this. You're never going to be able to do this. And they did. And so I think you're right. Maybe there's some things they weren't able to push through.
It was like there were too many voices at the end.
Maybe so. But I just love that there's, you know, it's interesting because now there's all this pushback, you know, men being upset about this. And I'm like, okay. And this has started a ton of conversations in our household. Because I'm like, I think that Greta Gerwig, I mean, because I loved some of the things she poked fun at.
Yeah.
But it was gentle fun. She wasn't mean.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like even in a movie for women, there's still a space for men. And you know, and that was the thing. I'm like, hello, gentlemen, this is how it's done. You know, because I feel like I've been able to project my and people. We don't always see ourselves on screen, which is one of the things we talk about a lot about representation and how much it matters.
Yeah,
but
we're going to talk about that with the next film.
Yeah, amen. But I think that those that are not represented seem to have a little bit more imagination and ability to project ourselves and recognize, oh, this is kind of, it's not me, I don't look like that person or I'm not that whatever, but I can see the humanity in this moment. And I feel like everybody should be able to do that. And I feel like, as we go on to our next film, I don't think a lot of white men have been forced to do that,
Yeah, it's interesting.
And I love men, I do. But
I do too. I'm married to one, and I gave birth to one who is my favorite person on the planet.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how people have had. I heard before I went to Barbie, well, it's it really bashes men.
Right.
It's a men bashing film, and I didn't think it was at all.
No.
At all.
It gave a lot of space to men, and showed, I think, how the patriarchy can be harmful for everyone.
Toxic.
It's an imbalance.
Yes.
And that's the point. But
Yes. So I didn't hate it, and I expected to hate it. Wish the little things would have been different, but quite enjoyed that first hour. I would go to the movies to see it again. That first hour, I think. I'll tell you what else I didn't like. I don't. I always sit through the credits. Always. I feel that people worked on the film.
Yeah,
I
you want to honor that.
And I did not care for the fact that the lyrics to Nicki Minaj's song in the lyrics afterwards, that every other word was, I'm Barbie.
BITCH.
Yes.
Yeah. I did.
I was like, really? Because do we want, it says it's for 13 up, and do we want 13-year-old girls hearing that? And I guess I'm old. But that's, if I had a daughter, I would have been like, really? But the end of the movie too. The very last thing, I don't want to give it away, but the joke at the end, I laughed, but I was like, and then I realized it was over, and I was like, that's what you're going to end with out of No.
I liked that. I liked it.
Well,
All right,
we're going to be
Let's
friends
move
at the
on.
end, though, right?
We will be friends.
Let's see after this next one whether we will be. So our next film is the Oppenheimer film.
Oppenheimer, yes. And of course, Christopher Nolan directed, Cillian Murphy, Florence Pugh, Robert Downey Jr., Emily Blunt, Rami Malek, Matt Damon, and a host of others.
Many more.
Many others that were in this. So this is intended to be the story of brilliant brains, particularly one brilliant brain, who created the atomic bomb that ended World War II. And right off the bat, I hated that, like I said, Barbie and Oppenheimer were opened on the same weekend, and that's then all of a sudden it was this competition between the two of them, and I'm like, no, it doesn't need to be.
They're separate films.
They're separate films, exactly. So I was just stunned how much of this film was exposition, and at that, really, really boring exposition. And I thought that would be a moment where I sort of understood quantum physics and nuclear fission, which I know I won't. I won't ever understand those. But in a film, sometimes you get these moments where they dumb it down just enough for you to go, okay, I kind of get that concept. And they were surrounded by chalkboards and these super intelligent characters discussing complex concepts. And I just still was like, I'm lost. And of course, it's about the Manhattan Project and the goal of trying to end World War II, in which there was, high loss of life, and it's U.S. history shows us that, and that this bomb did end the war and cause horrible devastation. But I still don't really understand well, I guess I wasn't rooting for them because I know what they were creating. Yeah. So I think that was a big hill to climb. Of like, how do we root for these guys that ended up becoming the destroyer of worlds? And also, the soundtrack was so loud, and I couldn't hear the dialogue, and I was like clenched to try to hear things. I had a splitting headache by the time this film was done, and then also like the women were just like window dressing. I don't know. Oh, here's the hysterical kind of manic pixie dream girl, and here's the shrewish wife, and here's and we read a review that mentioned multiple fights that Oppenheimer and his wife have, the wonderful Emily Blunt, about his multiple affairs. And I'm like, we did not see that. So I wonder if the reviewer saw a different cut. Although 3 hours is way too long. I'm sorry. You gotta, and that being said, RRR was 3 hours or more. And I didn't care. And I didn't care.
It.
So I just thought it was dull, and I'm sad because people in it were really great. And there was a weird little moment coming out of the Oppenheimer movie, the line to the men's room was really long, when normally it's the line to the ladies' room. So I feel like maybe that's why they've been pitted, Barbie and Oppenheimer have been pitted against each other, because this is a distinctively male movie, in my opinion. And like I said, performances were great, but I realized I don't think I like Christopher Nolan. I love Memento. I loved Inception. Other than that, I don't like Christopher Nolan. Nothing personal, but I just I don't get him. So what are your thoughts, my dear?
And I have been a Christopher Nolan fan in the past. So I'm somebody who, I did a research paper on the Manhattan Project in college, and it's always been something that's been of interest to me and fascinated to me, of how a group of people, and it wasn't just men, look it up in the history books, it wasn't just men, how a group of people could be convinced that for the greater good, we are going to create devastation.
Yeah.
And that what was the mindset of the people as they were working on it. And so I was thrilled when I heard this movie was coming out. I was excited about the fact that it was going to be in the hands of Christopher Nolan, because I knew it was going to be a little offbeat. And I tend to like Christopher Nolan. I think that Christopher Nolan is a storyteller, and I like storytellers. Tell me a story, and you don't have to tell it to me A, B, C, D. You can tell me Z, A, B. I'm fascinated if you tell me a story. But here's what I think happened. I think that Christopher Nolan, he's done some incredible movies. Inception, and I don't, like, the thing with Christopher Nolan is he's smart, and that he doesn't dumb things down for us, and that challenges me. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I just almost get it, and I kind of that's okay. Challenge me, Christopher Nolan. But time and time again, he's made big epic movies where he did not get a nomination for an Oscar. And I really honestly believe that somebody said to him, look, Chris, the thing you're going to have to do to get an Oscar nomination is you're going to have to do this big, very male-centric thing. You're going to have naked stars, and you're going to have to do this. And that he went, okay. And that I even want to go so far as to say that he's always had a problem with sound in his films. He always has had.
Dunkirk, I couldn't hear half of it either.
And I do think it's a crutch that he does not need. I really want to say to Christopher,
he doesn't like to loop. He likes the immediacy.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I'm sorry,
BS. It's
just
total BS. That's his excuse. For those of you guys who don't know, this is not the first film. So many critics have said, I can't hear dialogue. It's dense dialogue, and it's important to the plot, and I cannot hear it. And his answer is, well, I don't believe in looping. I don't believe in, which looping is, ADR when you go in afterwards, the film, and the actor, they play it on the screen and the actor does the voiceover for it. And yeah, I get his point. It's not as authentic and genuine, but you have to pick. You gotta, if you're a storyteller, and if the point that you're doing is telling a story, you either need to film better on the set and make sure your sound guy is there and your actor knows, or you lower your soundtrack, dude.
There's a mixing board somewhere
that
could have been utilized.
It absolutely is. Or if the dialogue is not important for us to hear, then you cut it. And when you're doing 3-hour films, if you don't feel it's important enough for us to hear, then it isn't important. Cut it. That's all. But, I just feel that I hated so many things about this movie. Did it have beautiful cinematography? Yes, absolutely it did. Did it have amazing performances that should be nominated? Of course. I'm not arguing that. It wasn't without some merits, but as a storytelling vehicle, I am offended on many different levels. First being that I said I felt assaulted by the sound. It was ridiculous. You want to know how ridiculous it was? We were sitting in the back row of our theater, and I was sitting right up against the wall, the seat right up against the wall. My son was sitting next to me, and my husband sitting next to him. And during some scenes, I was shouting at the screen, going, "This is ridiculous! Turn the sound down!" And no one could hear me. No one heard me. At the top of my lungs, I was yelling, saying, "Why is this so loud?" No one could hear me. That's how crazy it was. My chair was vibrating. I felt like an astronaut going into G-force. My teeth were rattling. My bones were rattling. That's not good storytelling.
Right. Well, honestly, that could have been great for the moment where they finally did test the bomb. If that had only been utilized for that moment. That's why I hate shaky camera movement. It makes me insane. Yeah. But I can see where sometimes when things are fraught, it adds to the tension. Whereas like the sound, that moment of silence and then the, would have been very, but yeah, by then I was so checked out because I didn't like anybody in the film. And I was frustrated by it. And I know there are tons of people that disagree. I've seen all these glowing reviews.
Yeah, are they all men?
I think they are. And I love men, I love you, but I feel like...
It's so myopic though.
Yeah.
Look, I am so sick and tired of seeing movies that are historically based, right? Yeah. It's based on a character or a time period. And we see the movie and there are no women.
Yeah.
And there are no people of color. There are no differently abled people anywhere. It's like sanitized. There was nobody but white men there. And if you watch this movie and you go, okay, I understand that there are some factually based things where there were trials and things. I cannot believe that there were no women there at all, either, at all. And we know that there were women working very high up in the Manhattan Project. We know that people of color were very much at Los Alamos. How we can make an entire film and have it be so, white men. And the only time women are featured at all in this film it's just so disgusting. Oh, yeah. It is so disgusting that, they are hysterical, nude and bouncing on the lead's lap. Don't even get me started talking about that. And that they can't handle motherhood. They can't handle, if their white man isn't there, they can't handle it. It's so misogynist, this film. So misogynist. And I'm 100% sure that Christopher Nolan didn't mean for it to be, but dude, you need to look at the film that you did. If I were to make a blockbuster movie, look at how freaked out people were about Barbie. Right. And men were in the film.
And men were in and had a big place in it.
Yes, and had a big... Imagine if I were to make a film and set it in 1952, and in the course of the film have scenes on college places, in homes, in military things, and have no men there. It would be a social comment. And people would go, "What's she doing here?"
Yeah. So, what is she trying to say?
So why are we not saying that? And it's not just Christopher Nolan. He is not the first filmmaker to do this. I'm sick of it. I am all the way sick of it, and it has to stop. But it was bad storytelling. Yeah. It was really bad storytelling. It was egregious bad storytelling. Although I will say that I felt that he nailed the ending. I thought that the ending, he nailed it. Now, if he had just decided to tell us the story knowing that he had the ending, and tell us a reasonable story that included other people in it. I get it. It's the story of Oppenheimer. It's called Oppenheimer. But he was married. And his wife had thoughts and feelings about what he was doing. It was a choice. It was a choice to depict women that way. It made me mad.
Yep.
That's how I feel about that. But the sound is, if you're going to take somebody who's on the spectrum, take noise canceling. It is abusive. And and I will warn you, that's not even going to do it. It is so loud that the chairs
everything
vibrate.
rattles.
I'm like, I want somebody to check it for damage to our ears.
I know. You do feel like, ooh,
bad.
I went to a Ramones concert that was not as loud as that.
Thank you. Come on, folks. Okay.
All right. Oh, okay. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. All right. The director is 𝗃𝗧 𝗵𝗃, and of course it stars our guy Tom Cruise, Hayley Atwell, Ving Rhames, Simon Pegg, Rebecca Ferguson, Vanessa Kirby, and Issa Morales. And I got to tell you, the mission is impossible, and things happen that are impossible, and our guy keeps making the impossible happen. That's the storyline of every single Mission Impossible film. Yeah. So the big bad in this film is artificial intelligence. And I think that's really obviously not that far-fetched these days, you know.
It's on point.
It's a big concern. The fabulous Hayley Atwell is a grifter, and she gets sucked into the world of Ethan Hunt and the Mission Impossible team. There are heart-pounding thrills, fantastic fights, and some amazing cliffhanger moments. I love this because it delivered precisely on what it promised. It was lovely to see this in the movie theater with a crowd, and the scene that's in all the trailers of Tom Cruise going off a cliff on a motorcycle was so fabulous. Yeah. And they didn't amp the soundtrack at all. In fact, it was pretty dry. There were not a lot of musical cues. And that scene was completely silent. Yeah. And everybody in the movie theater, we were like, yeah. Everybody was holding their breath, and then there's a moment where the wind comes in, and then you have the sound. Right. And I was like, that was thrilling to me, and to experience that with the crowd, and to see how well it was done. And then here's the thing, we always talk about this, about action films, my husband and I. We talk about the geography of the scene. Like, you need to be able to anticipate, oh, this might happen to our guy or our gal, let's hope, and what can we, oh no, what's going on? Oh no, around the corner, blah, blah, blah. And there are films, and I feel like Indiana Jones, the newest installment, did not do that very well. Some of the action sequences were confused, and I didn't know where I was. Whereas with this, you know where you are every precise second. There's some fantastic, oh my gosh, how did they do half of these things? Yeah. Unbelievable. So I was all on board, loved it, looking forward to part 2, and I actually wasn't really going to see this in the movie theater. I was going to wait, but I thought, you know, this could be something we could go as a whole family, and the whole family enjoyed it. So what are your thoughts on our...
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think it delivered exactly what it promises. I think when you go to a Mission Impossible movie, you want to see, you know, these breathtaking moments and these moments where there's no possibility that he can get out of it and that he does, and you want to care. You know, he's supposed to be this cold guy, but there's always a moment where there's, you know, something
a
where
moment
he's
of vulnerability.
Yes, and that we have to genuinely care and feel things, and I thought that they totally delivered. And it's funny because I saw this and Indiana Jones back to back. Yeah. And I said they're the same movie. Like, it's shocking. You could almost line the shots up. They're the same movie. But I think this did it better. And part of it is because they only are doing part 1, and then they have more time to tell the story. But yeah, I think it does exactly what it says it's going to do and what you expect. And if you want a thriller and you want to feel that breathless and be caught up in a movie, it's that wonderful escapism. This is the one to go see. You know, it's flawless in terms of that. Yeah. It's not Shakespeare in the Park, but if you're going to Mission Impossible, why would you want Shakespeare in the Park? Exactly. So yeah, I thought it was really good, and I recommend people, if you're looking for that, go see that.
Will deliver. Yeah, and a funny little side note, my daughter has the exact same car that they used in the chase in Rome, and she's like, my car can't do that. You know, little bitty Fiat 500. It added to the element of danger for her. You know?
I also love all the humor that they make sure that you know, they always pace these movies really well, so that you have action, 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 and then you have humor, and then it's like, then you have this, and then action, 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 humor, so that you know, it's very good at how it paces you to get to a fever pitch.
Yep. No.
Very well done. Very well done. Okay. Hi, Jack.
Hi, Jack. All right, the creators of this are 𝗔𝗕𝗢𝗓 and George Kay. Of course, the fabulous 𝗔𝗕𝗢𝗏.
Oh, yes.
𝗟𝗘𝗄𝗏𝗏, who, if you watch The Good Wife, you'll recognize her.
Love her.
Max Beasley, Harry Mitchell, Neil Maskell. I really, well, here, the premise is 𝗔𝗕𝗢𝗏 is on a plane, and it gets hijacked, and he's going to sort it out. And I love 𝗔𝗕𝗢𝗏.
Me too.
Oh God, he has got such a wonderful presence.
Yeah.
And I was glad to see him in an action film. And of course, we don't know what's happening. People are being held hostage. People are being pressured and threatened, and things are happening in the air. Things are happening on the ground.
Yeah.
So it goes back and forth. And this was released week to week on, I believe, Apple TV.
Yeah.
And I feel like it suffered from that. I feel like for me, my advice, if you have Apple TV, it's all available, binge it.
Yeah.
Because I think there are shows you want to binge, and there are shows that benefit from we got to wait for another week, oh my God.
Yeah, because you lose little threads.
Yes, I kind of forgot who some of the people were.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just a me thing, but.
No, I think that's accurate.
Yeah, and so I would give it the thumbs up, but my advice is binge it all the way through.
There we go.
Yeah. So what about you?
Yeah, we loved it. We saw it, excuse me, I think 2 episodes were out, and when we heard about it, somebody said, oh, you got to watch it. And then we were waiting for every new episode to come out. So I agree with you. I think this is a better binge. I wish I had just binged it. But I thought it was really good. It was kind of exactly what we needed right about that time. Because we're starting to see the beginning of less coming out right now on big screen and on TV because of the strikes. And it was sort of that summer kind of, and the first couple of episodes, man, I was, not able to sit in my chair. Every once in a while I have to get up and run around the living room because I'm like, oh no, and what's going to happen now? And then we'd have to wait a whole week. So I do think it's better to binge, but I thought it was really well done. I love 𝗟𝗘𝗄𝗏𝗏. She's been an outspoken person for the autism community too, by the way.
Oh,
yes, she has.
Now I like her even more.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I've always respected her, and she's a lovely actress. And 𝗔𝗕𝗢𝗏𝗏, and I don't know what the name of the actress was who was playing the air traffic controller in London.
She was divine. She was in Broadchurch.
She was really good.
I don't remember her name. She's really good.
Yeah.
But I had like a visceral reaction because I hated her in Broadchurch.
Oh,
so
how funny.
I was like, oh no. But then I'm like, oh my gosh, she's really good. And that's, if you watch a lot of British television, you do tend to see these wonderful folks, again and again.
Great character actors that can deliver.
Yes.
And there were a lot of great character actors in this, on the plane and on the ground, and it was a nail biter, really good. I loved it. Loved it.
Fun. All right.
Okay, Yellow Jackets season 1.
Yellow Jackets season 1. This is on Showtime. The creators are Ashley Lyle, Bart Nickerson, and we've got Melanie Linsky, Christina Ricci, Juliette Lewis, and I would also add in Tawny Cypress.
Yeah. And there were so many. I just
so
stopped.
many, and I will talk. This is in a sense Lord of the Flies, but with a group of girls,
and updated a little.
Yeah, or Alive with a girls soccer team instead of a Uruguayan rugby team in the Andes. So this show is in the Canadian Rockies. This team is headed to the Nationals. Their plane goes down, and they're in dire straits. And
for an extended period
of time. And what's great about this is the 4 key soccer players are excellent. Both the teenage versions and the adult versions.
Oh, so much attention to detail with that.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Each of the counterparts for the grown-ups, the teens were brilliant.
Yeah,
they
really.
weren't mimicking them.
No.
They were embodying oh my God, I wonder what they did together to
truly somebody directed well.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, you're right.
I like the show. It's got great performance. We just finished the last episode of season 1 like a couple days ago, so I'm all excited to start season 2, see where we go. I think if you can watch this, and I think it has the right balance of a little bit gory, a little bit dark, a little bit scary, but then a little bit of the dark humor and odd situations. Christina Ricci is just killing me, you know?
Right? And Juliette Lewis for me, oh my
yes,
gosh.
yes.
Yeah.
So it's really good. And one thing I do want to say, because I actually read a book recently about happiness and about like what are we really like in this world, and they talk specifically about Lord of the Flies. And Lord of the Flies is always used as it's going to turn into a Lord of the Flies, and they're going to start, you know, whatever. That actually doesn't often happen in real life. People tend to pull together.
Yeah.
And there are these stories of this similar thing that happened to, well, like the rugby team, you know, in Alive, or like there were these kids that got stranded on an island in somewhere in the, I believe in the South Pacific, and they banded together.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this makes better drama, obviously.
Right.
But I like the reality is we're actually nicer to each other than we think.
Yeah.
So and of course I'm the optimist, I want to hang on to that. But yeah, fun stuff. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I had totally missed this when it came out, although I heard little blurbs from people saying, oh, gotta watch it. But now we're starting to check out some things as season 2 come out that we missed, because now with the strike, there's, you know,
Less content.
right. We're looking for the things that are really good. So I'm grooving on this for a lot of reasons, but mostly it's the performances, exactly what you were saying, that I mean, Melanie Lynskey is a very specific type of actress with a specific cadence and a way that she addresses things. And so is Juliette Lewis, and Christina Ricci is playing a character that is very off the wall. And to see these young actresses pulling off the essence that there's no doubt in your mind that person grew up to be this person.
Yes.
It's really, really brilliant. Yeah. I will say that for me, it's moving too slow. That I really think I would have enjoyed this more as a movie than as a 10. Like, I don't know why, but it moves a little slow for me. The machinations of it all is just, it's a little bit slow for me, but I'm enough that I'm hanging in there and I'm gonna watch season 2. It's a little bit gorier too than my typical fare. Yeah. But there's enough interpersonal stuff going on that I'm still in.
You're in
I'm
it,
still in. So I think that I meant to look this morning. I know it got Emmy nods, but I didn't look to see which, but I'm telling you, if Christina Ricci and Juliette Lewis were not nominated, something went wrong, because their performances are killing me.
Yes.
Killing me.
Yeah.
So, but I do think it's worthwhile to watch if you can handle the gore. Here's something though, you know what I like the least about it is that you finish one, and I'm watching it on Paramount now, and you finish one episode and then they play the opening song, and it's like out of the Christopher Nolan playbook. It is loud, screeching, whatever, and usually like one episode ends and that might be when I run to the restroom or I run whatever, and all of a sudden I hear and it says and with these flashing pictures, and I'm like, oh, could we tone that down?
Skip.
I know, but then I gotta find the thing. I gotta run back from the bathroom, and I'm finding the thing going, oh, enough already. Christopher Nolan playbook. Okay, but it's just the opening. That's not the whole show like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. This one is called Somewhere in Queens, and it's directed by Ray Romano.
Did you realize that? I didn't realize that until I made this slide.
I did when you told me, hey, she texted me, I watched something called Somewhere in Queens. We could talk about that.
Yeah.
And I looked it up and I went, oh. And I'm like, directed by and written.
And co-written.
Co-written by. Yeah. And the ever fantastic Laurie Metcalf is in this. I adore her. And so basically it's an Italian-American family with deep roots, but also profound limitations, you know, within the family hierarchy. And Ray Romano plays a dad that just wants something better for his son, you know, and it's his directorial debut. And it's, you know, and I mentioned in partnership with Mark Steigman, he wrote the screenplay. So it's lovely, and I feel like he really lucked out casting Laurie Metcalf, because this gal, I adore her, and she's been around forever, and she can do anything.
Yes,
you know, she is really fantastic. So they play parents of a son who has a basketball talent, which might be his ticket to a different life. And so it's, you know, what I loved about it, it's everything you do as a parent that you want, you hope, and you want for things to be better for your kid, and you get crazy and you stress everyone out. It's like, I've done it, we all do it, and it's just part of being a parent. And Ray Romano, I felt, was really great at playing the sort of put upon, forgotten sibling, like the Fredo of the family, overlooked, and that makes so much sense why he put so much stake in what his son was going to achieve. So it's a lovely little movie. I don't want to give away the little things. You know, sometimes I watch a trailer and I'm like, stop telling me all the things, you know, but it's sweet. It's, I like movies like this that are not the big Mission Impossible. They're just about families and the things we do when we love our family so much, and how your family hurts you without realizing, and, you know, so, and the Italian-American part, we had my mother-in-law come over because we were like, it's Italian-American, and now I really want her to make meatballs because we're overdue. But lovely, loving, crazy family. So what did you think of this one?
I mean, I just loved it. And I didn't realize that Ray Romano directed it and that it was his directorial debut. I love Ray Romano. I have always loved Ray Romano back when he was a stand-up comedian, and I was thrilled when he got his show, and I thought his show was hysterical. And I still, if it's on and I walk through the room, I'll sit down and watch his sitcom because I thought it was hysterical. And I really think that he's gone a long way to proving that he's an actor.
Yes, he is.
That he's got acting chops, and I think that
he does.
this film furthers that. I do think that now that I know that there were times when I was like, I kind of wish the director had pushed him a little bit more here. And now I know it was him.
Yeah.
And I think when you're directing yourself, that it's a hard thing, especially when you wrote it. So that would be my one minute criticism, is that I think he needed another eyeball there for himself to go, hey, here, you're telling on yourself a little bit. Right. And you don't have to, you can just be you, you're enough. Yeah. But I love this script. I loved this storytelling. I was so moved. I just put it on one night. I was like, I love Laurie Metcalf. I've loved everything, you know, back when she was at the Goodman as a regular on stage. I've loved Laurie Metcalf. And so I thought, well, this is a no-brainer for me. And, you know, I grew up in upstate New York, but most of the people I went to college with were from Long Island, which is how you say it. And I've been in many homes that are that Long Island, Italian, you know, everybody's family here, how many meatballs do you want kind of situation. But there was also an element of this that, and I don't want to give things away, that sang to me as a quote unquote special needs mom. Yes. That there were things that, you know, it's very interesting because it's sort of like, what does the zeitgeist spit out? And sometimes it's like, you know, me saying that Indiana Jones and Mission Impossible were almost the same movie. It's like, how does that happen? How do you have like almost the exact same things in these two movies? And as we were watching this, I was like, this is like a different take on that No Hard Feelings movie. But it's from the parents' point of view.
From the parents' perspective.
Even to the point where there is a moment where giving a car to someone is discussed. Yes. And I was like, how does that come up twice in the same year in movies? But, you know, I think, you know, it is our society saying there's some things going on. And I loved the way this took a very sweet look at what it is, what our hopes and dreams are for our children, and how sometimes we, you know, get caught up in what we need for our children. And what that's about. I just loved it. There's some great actor performances in this, but I think looking at his point of view as a parent in depth, but not just that, who he is at this point in his life, and he's married to this woman, and you know, I just thought it was lovely and lush, and I loved pretty much everything about it. Just a couple of little things that I would have had the director.
But and a great emotional punch. I'm not going to spoil, but
so
just
great.
get choked up thinking of it.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
yes, I was very
Amazing.
happy. And I want more movies like this.
Yes, 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 yes.
We can have the Marvels, we can have the Tom Cruises, but give me the 𝗂𝗓𝗏𝗧s too.
And here's a great example. You know, this was a story about a dad. This is what this story is. But the mom was in the film.
Yes.
And there were times in the film when, you know, like you kind of look and go, I don't know what the story is there, and then more is revealed.
Right.
And you get to see a full person. It wasn't just, you know, you're a cardboard cutout of a person. We're just going to color you mom. Of course, Laurie Metcalf would have never gone for that, right?
True.
But I walked away from this and I just thought it was so lovely, and I watched it by myself, and then I said to my husband, oh, I had to pay for it on demand, I think.
Yes.
And I said, hey, I paid for this movie. We have it for 2 days. You got to catch it.
Yep.
And then he came to me like the next day, all choked up. He said, I watched that movie. And I said, what'd you think? And he was like, oh, it got me, you know? and I said, yeah, that's exactly. So good job, Ray.
Yes, well done.
I want to see more from him.
More, please.
All right. And so then I think next is our rewind, if I'm not mistaken.
We do have a rewind, and it's funny that you mentioned it because it was a film I wanted to see.
And I had never seen it before.
And me neither.
Yeah.
Slums of Beverly Hills. It's from 1998. The director was Tamara Jenkins. Natasha Lyonne was in this. Alan Arkin, Marissa Tomei, Carl Reiner, Rita Moreno.
And more.
And more, yeah. So
more.
Alan Arkin plays the patriarch of a family who has to run from landlords, but needs to stay within the zip code of Beverly Hills for his kids in order to have them be in a better school district.
Yeah.
And it's the 70s. There are platform shoes and questionable parenting choices, I'm going to say. The cast was great, but honestly, I don't think this film aged well, in my opinion. And I know it isn't even that old, and it's also depicting the 70s. But it actually made me uncomfortable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I don't think I can forgive Alan Arkin's character for one particular moment, even though I love Alan Arkin, and he's always wonderful. It was just plain creepy, and it didn't make sense. And Natasha Lyonne is always worth watching in anything she does. She made a transition from child actor to being a grown-up now, and Orange is the New Black and Russian Doll, always fabulous. And I'm a big fan. Marissa Tomei, in my opinion, is the standout in this film. She's playing somebody really vulnerable, mixed up, troubled, but also like full of life.
Yeah.
And she did such a great job at that. And I think that's one of the reasons I can't forgive Alan Arkin's character, because you can see how much his character's actions hurt her.
Yes.
And it was like, what am I watching?
Yes.
You know? So, it's weird.
Yes.
It's weird, but I'd love to hear what you think.
Oh, I loved it. But I can definitely see why you thought that. I thought what was interesting about it is that it was made in 1998, but set in the 70s, and now I'm watching it in 2023, post Me Too.
Right.
Right? So there's 3 different perspectives there.
Yes.
And I love Alan Arkin, and but what I thought was interesting about it, and a little healing for me, but in a weird way, is to see that, and I don't want to give too much away for people who haven't seen it, but you know, something happens that he behaves inappropriately. I mean, beyond inappropriately, in a moment that's just crushing, right? But it's interesting that the film shows very clearly who gets blamed, which is a very 1970 thing. The woman gets blamed.
Of course.
And and
And his behavior is explained away.
Yeah. But the woman is blamed, and I think that is very much a 1970
she takes it
thing.
on.
Yes,
That's
she totally does. Because
the
that's what
devastation.
people did in the 70s, right? And to see that from a 1998 perspective about here's what it was in the 70s. But I think that we need that kind of thing to point out to people and go, this is why we have people that are having issues now. And people go, why didn't you say something?
Yeah.
Well, because in 1970, this is the bullshit that happened and this is what was expected. So for me, that I was like, right. That's exactly the kind of crap that went on. And I also appreciated that, it's funny because now I'm thinking of it through your lens and I'm like, oh yeah, no, there is that. But I appreciated that because the film is really about Natasha Lyonne's character.
Yes.
And about how I am a young woman who does not have my mother here.
Right.
I don't have a role model.
Right.
My dad is chaotic and not a good parent. And yet I am going to, see the world and see how everybody's telling me that I'm less than, and I'm going to try to make sense of that somehow and how I work that out. And I thought that was a very interesting character study of seeing how she processes all of it. Because anybody, I mean, even now in Beverly Hills, if I drive down the street in Beverly Hills, what it screams to me is, I don't belong. I'm not meant to fit in here. I don't want to fit in here. And to see that through the eyes of a 16-year-old who's kind of trying to discover herself.
But I think she
was
was
interesting.
14. That's
Is
another.
she 14?
I think because she was starting as a freshman in high school.
Okay, I
that
might have missed
disturbed
that.
the crap out of me too.
Yeah, I might have missed that. And
Yeah,
that would have
I could be
disturbed
wrong.
me.
You could correct me in the notes.
Well, let's put an asterisk there. I mean, it's a troubled film.
It's a troubled film.
It
Yes.
is a troubled film.
Yes.
But I thought it was worth watching. And we should note that the director is also the writer.
Yes. Yes.
So, and I thought that was really interesting. But I did think that it was commenting on the fact that this crap happened.
Yes. Yeah.
And I,
Well, and that was like, because we open on Natasha Lyonne being taken to get a bra because she doesn't have a bra and she's very developed, and that is a challenge for her,
And that is a big part of her identity in
Yeah.
this movie, is figuring out these are breasts that I didn't plan on, and
Yep.
how does the rest of the world perceive them, and how
Yep.
do I perceive them?
Yes. Yes. So I did like all of that, and I
Yeah.
thought that was a good journey to go on. I think, there's just sometimes some moments in movies where you're like, but you're right.
It was
I think that
deeply
was the
upsetting.
point. Yeah, that was the point.
I do think it was the point, but it was deep, and I think probably triggering. So we should
Yeah.
warn people,
Yeah.
because it was out of left field, and it was like, no,
Yeah.
no, I don't want that to be the story.
Right. Exactly.
But there we are. Often it was, and still is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there we have that.
Well, we managed to stay friends.
Yes, we did. I'm impressed. I thought, because, I have not yet met a woman who just well, that's not true. Dr. 𝗃𝗄𝗧 sat here the other day and said she loved Oppenheimer.
Interesting. Okay.
So, but other than her, so I thought maybe you would have loved Oppenheimer, and I'm not in that camp.
No.
Nope.
Yeah. Oh, well.
So
it'll get all the awards. I know it will.
Oh yeah, no, he's going to get a nomination for directing finally, and that's going to reinforce that bad behavior. I'm sorry to put it in ABA parlance, but I'm really upset that he's going to be like, oh, so apparently
that's what you do to succeed. Yeah.
Yes, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
I agree.
Anyway, we will be back next month with more films, and if there's something in particular, anything you want to say that you're dying to see right now?
Well, I'm excited to see season 2 of Yellow Jackets.
Okay.
There was what was it? There was some. I actually want to see Haunted Mansion.
Oh, I want to see that too.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's definitely see that.
Because I'm enjoying the sort of new takes on different things. I don't mind it. I don't mind it. So, and I love Lakeith Stanfield.
Okay.
I think that's Stanfield. Oh, I'm getting it wrong. Adore
Traven's
him.
telling me. Tell me. Stanfield. There we
Adore
go.
him. Adore him. So I'm excited to see him in anything. So, yeah.
Well, I am excited to see that as well. So we'll definitely hit that one. But if there's things that you want us to watch, guys, send over your, because we're still formulating. All right. Thank you so much for being here. I
Thanks
enjoy
for
this
having
time.
me.
I
Me
really
too.
do. And I enjoy being here with you guys. I hope that you do too. Programming note, a reminder that we're going to run a rerun on Monday, and then we're back with a live show on Tuesday with Dr. 𝗃𝗄𝗧. The topic is autism and sleep.
Oh.
So
Very
send in your
important.
questions if you want to get those answered. All right. So we'll see you then. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.